Ladies and gentlemen, from the campus of the University of West Florida in Pensacola, Florida, Full Ring Incorporated and Budweiser, the undisputed king of beers, presents main event, 10 rounds, super middleweights. Your judges at ringside are, from the state capital, Tallahassee, Florida, Jay Cassis. From Cantonment, Florida, Vincent Thomas. And from Pensacola, Florida, Fred Sowers. Your referee for this event, from the Magic City of Orlando, Florida, Frankie Santori. Here now are the principals. First, in the blue corner to my right, wearing the camouflage trunk, he weighs 164 pounds with a professional record of 25 wins, 11 defeats. He has 19 knockouts from Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico, Dэнni Garsia. His opponent in the red corner, wearing the glittering purple trunks, he weighs 166 pounds. His professional record, undefeated in 24 professional bouts. He has 21 knockouts. From Pensacola, Florida, the IBF middleweight champion, Roy Jones Jr. IBF middleweight championship not at stake. Questions here? Listen to me all the time. Good luck, people.
That graphic demonstrating the total domination of Roy Jones as a professional fighter in his 24 fights and 24 victories, with the exception of the title fight, the victory over Hopkins, in which he won 8 rounds to 4. He has won every round except one to Jorge Castro in all of his fights. Well carved out, even at 166 pounds, a weight that he would have to achieve if he ever got into the ring. About a much talked about matchup against James Toney, and that seems to be the showdown over the horizon for Roy Jones.
Yeah, that's the big talk in this division, or the middle and super middleweight division. That big fight would bring out all the great essentials of both of these fighters. Roy Jones, what every fighter needs is the next level, the ability to reach the next level. And with the fighters like Dэнni Garsia, Fermin Chirino, they're not really at the next level. They're trying to stay loose, trying to keep active, trying to hone his skills a bit more as Roy Jones. With this fight, Dэнni Garsia said that he was going to take it right to Jones from the opening bell. He's giving him too much room. You cannot give Roy Jones room. He will shine too much. He will control too much. He will stay on the outside too much and use too much lateral movement, something that Dэнni Garsia does not like.
Roy Jones admits he's seen some footage of Dэнni Garsia, says Garcia can hurt you with either hand if he lands, but that's the thing, he has to land against Roy Jones. And Jones going downstairs to the body. Garcia comes in when he heard the introductions of both his opponent Jones in Pensacola and the introduction of himself, kind of really knowing that he's got to deliver the knockout.
But he has not delivered a punch this round. Dánni Garsia backpedaling, not his style, and not thrown one single punch. And more than halfway through, he's feinted a few times, but he's feinting along with Roy Jones. Jones is an outstanding feinter. He can feint you out of your shoes. Sweeping right hand by Jones. One thing, everything a fighter needs is exposure. You need to get on television, you need a lot of people to see you, but you want to make sure every time that you're seen that it's a good showing. Against fighters like Dánni Garsia, sometimes that's more difficult to have a good showing. Look at the room that Roy Jones is giving Garcia.
And Garcia in the back pedal mode here in round number 1. Now, would you even consider this a feeling-out process for Garcia if he hasn't even touched his opponent?
No. How can you feel him if you don't touch him? How can you feel if you don't get your hands out there?
And Roy Jones booming in some shots here late in the first round. We will pause for a word from your local cable systems. You're watching USA's Tuesday Night Fights. All assembled at the field house on the campus of the University of West Florida in the hometown of the man in the purple trunks, the IBF middleweight champion, Roy Jones, in a tune-up for a defense of his middleweight crown coming up late in May. Target date is May 28th against the #1 contender, Thomas Tate. And you almost get the idea that Roy Jones wouldn't even fight that fight unless it were a mandatory and would be his first defense in a year since he's held the title. But Roy Jones very adamant that he won't risk punishment in the ring without getting paid accordingly, which is really catch-22.
Nice overhand right, and again, going downstairs and upstairs, mixing a combination is Roy Jones. You know, with fighters like Dэнny Garsia, Roy's had some hand trouble in the past. It's easier to hurt your hand on the Dэнny Garcias of the world in the sport of boxing. They don't know how to accept your punches correctly.
And Roy Jones, starting with the power downstairs, now goes upstairs. You're looking at one of the most attractive fighters in the world, and you're wondering, as overprotective as he is about his career, if it may be a career just kind of passing by. You know, he's angry that he's not getting paid to fight, but in a sense he's also not fighting to get paid. And he is very careful. He was careful when he came out of the Olympics. He was handled by his father, and people were saying, where is Roy Jones? It took him 4 years as the star out of the Olympics to get to a world championship fight.
Those were the 1988 Olympics.
And now he's a champion. That's right. And he's basically same position, not fighting championship fights.
Exactly. Now reaching the next level because of no competition, or little competition.
And the shame is, you know how good he is, and how colorful he is, and boxing really needs this kind of fighter right now.
Absolutely. I know how very good he is, and these stands here in his hometown should be full. I know he's upset about this. It's not full, but it's because people around here have seen this before. You see the same kind of opponents that he faced, the same kind of Dэнny Garsia, Fermin Chirino. These kind of fighters who come in and they got the big punch, they try to land, but they cannot match the speed of Roy Jones. And against these kind of adversaries, Roy Jones looks astonishingly fast.
Completely one-sided so far through the first 2 rounds, all Roy Jones. Roy Jones not the only champion from Pensacola here tonight. Super Bowl champ Emmitt Smith of the Dallas Cowboys, also a Pensacola native. And he is at ringside.
Oh yeah, the two move alike. Roy Jones moves a lot like Emmitt Smith. Good lateral movement, switch directions, quickly, easily, very fluid.
He's trying to get the same deal, the contract that Emmitt Smith got.
Let's see if he can catch a football.
But he's trying to do that for one fight.
Yeah.
When Roy Jones broke in with his father, and it seems as if he has right now the same beliefs as he manages his own career, they did not want to form any alliances with some of the major promoters in boxing. And it really kept them from the early title fights. Did not want to give up control. Did not want to give up the ability to call their own shots. And he basically still believes the same thing.
Yes, well, that is one problem that you have when a man who manages himself, as Roy does, and a man who understands the business of boxing. And he understands, and he doesn't want to put himself in those big fights unless he can make the big money.
Well, do you feel he's being squeezed out in this position?
Yes, a bit. I think that if he were with a bigger, powerful promoter, it would take him to another level. He's got to have those big fights, but to be able to get those big fights, you have to sign with the big-time promoters. That's all there is to it. You're not going to get them unless you do.
And it's one thing Roy Jones, to this point, says he refuses to do. Briefly, he was dealing with the Bob Allen, but no longer. 1 minute to go in the third round.
And really what a shame, because what a fantastic fighter he is, and how we would love to see him with some of the best fighters in the world in this middleweight division. Like I say, this fight he's just trying to stay loose, just trying to keep warm, keep busy. There's not a whole lot he can learn about boxing inside the ropes. He's been boxing his whole life. Father Roy Sr. taught him the sport, taught him the business of it.
Actually, Jones is involved on a basis with the Bob Allen in the title fight. But he has not defended once. And it'll be a year before he makes his first defense.
Yeah, many of those contracts out are written where if you defend your title, that has to be put on by a big-time promoter, not if you don't defend it.
The crowd eating this up so far, which has turned out to be an exhibition for Roy Jones. Still waiting for Dэнni Garsia to let his hands go. There's a left hook. That's more Jones pulling away than the effect of the punch. Just like in a Torino fight that lasted 10 rounds and went to decision, you just felt that Roy Jones can end it at any time he wished.
Unless his hand is hurt, like it was hurt in that Torino fight. With powerful punchers like Roy is, 21 KOs out of a 24 wins, a lot of times you have hands that break down during a fight.
Dэнni Garsia was once 28-7, legitimate fringe contender, very competitive against some of the other contenders. Had some nice wins. Knockouts over Ulysses Boulware, a couple of knockouts over Jorge Maisonet, and then he stepped up. He went for the biggies, the home runs, and he's since lost 4 in a row. January to Chris Pyatt. He had Pyatt hurt in the 10th round, but he lost every other round. Pyatt, of course, went on to win the WBO crown. In June, he lost to Lamar Parks. He had floored Parks and gave him 10 hard rounds, but lost the decision. Then in July, took on James Toney and really took a beating. He stopped in 6 rounds, and that may have taken the last out of Garcia. February, lost a 10-rounder up in Canada to Stephan Orlet.
Lost his last 4 in a row. We talked about the James Toney fight, and for Roy Jones, sure, he would like to get Garcia out before the time that he was shot by Toney. Here's what I was talking about in the Blackwood. See these shots from Roy Jones? A lot of them are hitting the arms, they're hitting the shoulder. If you slow that down a little bit, yeah, you need the speed to slow it down just enough to land and crack a big shot like that. Then you bring it in later. You bring it in when you need it. He's bringing it in now, and I don't think this is the time for the fight to be stopped. I think Garcia is going to be there, although right now Roy Jones trying, perhaps looking for that 6th round, but he wants to get Garcia out of there.
Big right hand by Roy Jones. Garcia remains on the bicycle. Closing seconds of round number 4 is scheduled for 10.
The last part of that 4th round. Look at all these punches from Jones, but look how many of these shots miss. Not setting up his opponent and staying so far away from him, you miss a lot of punches. Perhaps if you slow down a little bit, You move in a little bit, you take your time, you set your opponent up a little bit better, and then you land every one of those shots. That's the problem sometimes with a fighter that is so much better than one of the other. In a match like this, they fall asleep. And your mind really wanders instead of concentrating on what it is you're supposed to be concentrating about. When I saw Roy Jones against Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones was right on that night. He was so focused, he was so ready, you could see it in his face and in his eyes, and in his motions inside the ring. He did not miss a shot. Tonight, he's missing punches.
Well, tonight he's punching. Did not do that against Chirino. So he is preparing himself for a couple of months down the road. And the fight against Thomas Tate, mandatory defense. And this is a terrific division right now. Joe McClellan looking better and better each fight. WBC champion. John David Jackson is the WBA champion, but you still have in the rankings the Bernard Hopkins, the Julian Jacksons. I don't know where Otis Grant will slide, but he has something to prove in coming back. Lamar Parks, Reggie Johnson, guys like Pazienza.
Right now, I think this has been the most exciting division in the history of boxing, over the time of boxing. The middleweight division has the speed of the real lightweight fighters. The featherweights, the flyweights, the lightweights, and the power, the punching power, the heavyweight fighters, the heavyweights, the light heavyweights. They mix that in.
And over the next 2 weeks, you'll be seeing both Roberto Duran and Vinny Pazienza. Roberto, at the age of 42, keeps his hopes up high, is still achieving another world championship, and so does Vinny Pazienza. And actually, those two are looking to show down the road before they move on.
Now holding, I think that's the most action that Garcia's given us.
10 seconds left in round 5, and we will pause for a word from your local cable systems. Sixth round action. IBF middleweight champion Roy Jones in the purple trunks, and in the camouflage is Dэнny Garsia. Comes in at 25-11. But of the 25 wins, 19 by knockout. Couple of impressive KOs, and this is Bulwer, a couple against Jorge Maisonet, but those may have been in another career.
Yeah, tonight he's worn camouflage gloves because we haven't seen any punches from him. And he heard it between rounds. Felix Pintor, his manager, trainer, telling him, you got to throw more punches. He said, I'm going to stop the fight right now. He called the referee over. He said, I'm going to stop the fight because you've not been busy enough. And I think he got the message. Dэнny Garsia came out with more punches this round. I think more than he's thrown the whole fight. You know, Felix Pintor in the corner was bluffing, telling Dэнny Garsia, I'm going to stop this, and you're not even trying.
Fighters have some interesting approaches to upcoming fights. We sat down and talked with Dэнny Garsia yesterday, and Garcia says he'll beat Roy Jones. And I asked him, did you ever see him fight? And Garcia says no. And I said, how do you know you can beat him? And Garcia says, well, I knocked down Lamar Parks, and I fought James Toney. Well, he lost to Toney in 6 rounds, and he went on to lose to Lamar Parks. That's his reasoning. But he's certainly not backing up any of the confident type of talk.
Good choice of words, good low hand. Interesting, because he also had no fight plan. He's going to figure him out the first round. When you go into a fight, you better know what you're going to do. Kaboom! Roy Jones knows what he's going to do in this 6th round. Pick it up. Overhand right from him.
But that's the kind of rationale you hear from fighters going in the fight.
Boom! That's it.
Unless Garcia just has something up his sleeve that he hasn't revealed so far in the first 5-6 rounds.
Something in those camouflage socks in his pocket.
He's trying to take Jones to the later rounds.
Right now, Garcia thinks he's in a leather factory. Pulling away from these punches, so difficult to hit fighters when they move back like that. They hit them solid. Oh, good right hand from Jones. Good left hook from Jones.
And he stays on his feet.
Rolling around. Trying to dodge the punches, Garcia. But he didn't dodge that one.
This is the round James Toney got to Dэнni Garcia. Cannot be saved by the bell unless the final round, and he doesn't beat the bell here. Six-round workout for Roy Jones, who plays to his crowd.
And very important, he knew this round that he needed to end this fight. Important strategically for Roy Jones in an effort to fight James Toney. There's Emmett Smith with congratulations.
I think Emmett would like to fight Danny next.
Emmett would beat him.
I thought we weren't allowing football players in the ring again.
He's back. Good to see his back.
Roy Jones goes to 25-0. That's his 22nd knockout. And getting in some rounds. And now looking ahead for his first title defense coming up in May against Thomas Tate 1 year after he won the title from Bernard Hopkins. And let's see again how this one concluded with a barrage along the ropes.
Yeah, the barrage with that overhand right that snapped off, and then the left hook, the two punches together, trying to get out of the way of the shots. Dэнni Garcia, but Roy Jones connecting. Kaboom. Roy says his best punch is the left hook. And here it is again. A different angle. You throw enough shots, one of them's finally going to get in. Missing a lot of punches tonight, though, is Roy Jones, but connecting with the one that counts. Just need one.
So Jones sends Dэнni Garcia down to his 5th consecutive defeat, and not much fight out of Dэнni Garcia here tonight. A perfect foil for Roy Jones. Let's get the official time. Here's Mark Vito.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 2 minutes, 59 seconds of the 6th round. The winner by 9